So this is a private recording and a private video for people within my program. And this video has been created for one simple reason, which is to getting you out of this figuring it out loop. And yes, I'm gonna call it the figuring it out loop because it is what it is. It is this loop that I find most people fall into it, where something happens, you do a strategy, it works to a certain extent, and you're always trying to figure it out, how to make it better, how to fix it, how to plan around it, what to do. And it's always kind of this feeling of you have it but you don't have it at the same time. It's like you have a good business but you don't have a good business at the same time. Something is always missing. You're always in this constant state of fixing, improving, tweaking, just to figure it out. So this is, in my opinion, one of the worst states to be in within business, because most clients, most people, most prospects are not attracted to the energy of figuring it out, and they're very attracted to people who have their stuff aligned and in order. So I'm gonna cover the principles, the quadrant for that, and just let's jump into it. Let's not waste more time on it. So basically, this is Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants. By the way, just as a quick statement, right now I work 3.5 hours per day on my business, and the business moves forward. So the big question is, like, how can I build a 6-figure business while working 3 hours a day, while some people bend over backwards every single day and their schedule is entirely planned out and they're barely making enough money? And this is kind of the big reason why. See, within Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants, let me do this. We have quadrant number 1, quadrant number 3, and quadrant number 4, which is kind of the no-no zone. And we have quadrant number 2, which is the go zone. And we're gonna walk through them very quickly without going into very deep details. So if you look at the axis over here, we have going from not important to important. And at the axis over here, we have going from urgent to not urgent. And the intersection is those quadrants. So we have the first intersection, urgent and important, that you can see over here, where I put the plus, quadrant number 1. It's basically problem solving, deadline driven activities. Like, for example, your taxes are coming up, you need to take care of them, you didn't take care of them all year, so now you need to figure that out very quickly or you will get to jail. A pressing problem is your wife called you, hey, well, I just ran into another car, can you come and pick me up and see what's happening? So this is a crisis statement. This is a general statement, but every single one of us has a crisis problem within his business. And a lot of us operate within that quadrant every single day. And this is why we're very stressed out, we're very burnt out, we're always putting out fires, and we're never thriving. If you're always operating from a place of deadlines, it's very hard to thrive. It's very hard to create, because you are literally the opposite of creation. You are in urgency. Moving down, there's the quadrant number 3, which is not important but urgent. This is the plus. So here we have meetings, we have client calls, we have a client sent you a message, something is happening, we need to deal with it right now, etc., 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 etc. This leads to short-term focus, crisis management, reputation, chameleon character, see goals, plans, etc. I'm not going to dive deep into those. You can read the entire book, but I'm going to give you kind of everything that you need to take from this. So, in other words, quadrant number 3 is a very bad zone to be in, because you're always working urgently on the things that are not moving the needle forward. And this is where I see people who come to me and they're like, Arnold, I've been doing this for 4 years and I'm not moving forward. Or this is where I see people coming in and they're like, Arnold, I'm burnt out and I'm not getting where I want to go. It's because you're working urgently every single day on the things that are not important and not moving the needle forward. Which takes us to quadrant number 4, which is over here. This is one of the worst quadrants for every human being, not just a entrepreneur, an employee, a human being. Fundamentally, it's a very bad quadrant. This is where you're spending time on time wasters, scrolling through socials, replying to random emails, pleasantries, activities, watching whatever on your phone. I'm not gonna even touch this quadrant because there's nothing productive that comes from this quadrant. Which takes us up to quadrant number 2. And quadrant number 2 is a CEO level quadrant. Quadrant number 2 is where you move from doing stuff because you need to do them. I need to do it. It's urgent. I need to push. I need to create. I need to I can. I want to. I see it. It makes sense. You gain a high level perspective around everything. And I call this the CEO perspective. By the way, I love movies. Cool. So there's a movie called John Wick. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's a beautiful action movie. And in John Wick, there is this table. They call it the table, basically. And everyone is under the table. But there's one person who's on top of the table. Now, this one person, usually, he's in the desert alone. No one can reach him. And he sees everything and he knows everything, but he doesn't touch anything. He controls it all. He throws a word and people do. He says this needs to happen and people create it. So this quadrant is kind of this. You are moving from under the table as an employee within your business to over the table as a CEO, as an operator, as someone who sees and who manages. This is where you're doing some prevention work, capability improvement. This is where you're building relationships, recognizing new opportunities, planning recreation, etc. I'm going to give you an example here. One of my quadrant 2 activities at the beginning of 2025 was to build out my processes, so SOPs. And the simple reason why is because I had been working with tens of coaches over the years, and I didn't have a documented process. So whenever someone asked me a question, I had to get on a call with them and then help them solve it back again from scratch every single time. And time again, this created a lot of mental effort on me, which I was constantly in the, let me pick a color, in this quadrant. Because I was always in this need. I need to reply, I need to fix, I need to. So what I started to do is I started to create SOPs and heuristics for the people who went through the foundational doc. This is one of them. For the people who went through the front-end offer, this is one of them. For the people who went through the client whispering process, this is one of them. So I started building out the documents of the product. And now whenever someone asks me a question, I send them an entire SOP. Their mind is fucking blown out of the park, fundamentally, and they get better results than if I had to get on a call with them and re-explain everything from scratch. So this is an activity that is very high level. It's not urgent. If I didn't do it, the business wouldn't crumble, but it's very important. So this is where you're doing not urgent stuff, but it's very important work. Another one is recognizing new opportunities. This is where you read your market research, you read your market data, and you find gaps. And you find gaps within the market. What are the gaps? What is happening within that market? Remember the story of the table? You're reading the table. You're trying to see what's at the table, what's happening over here. Here's an example of mine. I was reading, I have a 30-page printout of my ideal ICP. And I was reading. And through all of the data, one of the most consistent recurring patterns that came up is that those people are not getting the attention that they need. So I'm like, interesting. And I'm not going to say the exact expressions. And I'm like, okay, interesting. What if I create a in-depth one-on-one mentorship that is very, very, very intimate between me and this person to give him all of the attention that he needs? And I did it. And you are here. The mentorship is here. If you're watching from the mentorship. People bought it more than any other offer that I've ever put out because of that. Because you're doing research and development. You're researching, you're developing, you're understanding, you're reading the market at a very deep level. You are not operating as an employee anymore. You're operating as a CEO, someone who reads, who sees, etc., etc. I'm going to give you another one, for example, a YouTube channel, or even just content. Content is not urgent, but it's so important, because as I do them and as I build those up, more and more people are going to see this, and more people are going to be like, okay, this is amazing. I would like to work with him. So it's not urgent. I can do it whatever I want, whenever I want, but it works. And it makes money over a very long time. So now that you understand this principle, I have a question for you. If you want to get out of the figuring it out loophole, which is, what is, or what are your, this is a very bad your quad 2, so quadrant 2 over here, activities. These, and usually those are 1 to 2 activities. That's it. That's kind of quadrant 2 activities. Maybe you're gonna reach 3 depending on the stage of your business. So maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 activities on quadrant 2. So I'm gonna give you my activities just for the sake of explaining it and giving you the most that I can, as usual. My activities 1 is market understanding. So the market research, I consistently read it. I consistently reread my offer brief, reread my initial avatar distillation, whatever you want to call them. I always read it. I always have a pulse on my market just to see what's happening. Where are we? Where are we going? What's happening? The second one is the content. So when I distill my understanding from the market, I turn it into content fundamentally, and it's very easy. It becomes very easy over time. And my third is the SOPs. So it took me approximately 5 months to finish the foundational doc. Some of you go through it and it takes you a day. It took me 5 months to finish it. So SOPs take some time fundamentally, but it is what it is. So those are my 3. And as long as I'm doing those 3, I have a very high level perspective on the market. I can see the market and I can read the market. I am the person over the table. I can read the table. I understand what's happening on the table. What is the game being played? And because I can read it and I can see the game that's being played, I could just drop in, get my share, come out fundamentally. One last example before I give you the last thing. When I tell you read the market and read the data, here's kind of the idea. Alex Becker, you can go to YouTube, you can see him. He has built a company called Hyros. Hyros has been sold for $100 million, a bit more. And he was the sole owner of it, so he got 100% of that approximately. Plus, he still has shares in the company, so he's going to become a multi-billionaire pretty soon. And do you know how he did that? Hyros isn't a groundbreaking company. He was in a mastermind, and in this mastermind, he was sitting down and he was listening to 2 very big players in the industry having a debate around tracking ads. Having a debate around tracking ads. What is the best way to track ads? And he realized that there's a very big gap in ad tracking. No one had a consistent, reliable solution to track ads. So he went out and he built solution. And the company has been sold for $100 million. Can you see? how he was able to pick it up. He wasn't able to pick it up because he was hustling, always in a urgent state, trying to figure shit out. He was able to pick it up simply because he was sitting down, he was listening, he was in a research mode, he was in an absorption mode, he was reading the market, and it worked. So the last thing that I have for you over here is get out of the matrix. I've been watching The Matrix again and again with my fiance. Such a beautiful movie, so many lessons. And one of the very important lessons within this movie is see the big picture. See the big picture. Stop operating from a quadrant 1, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4 frame of mind. Stop operating in constant urgent, constant crisis, constant doing shit just to do it, and start operating from a big picture perspective. See what's happening. See the monopoly game that's in front of you. As you are not an employee anymore. So you are the CEO of your business, not the employee of your business. So stop acting like it. Once you do that, your entire energy is shifted. Your entire being is shifted. And it will only be a matter of not falling back and holding yourself. So one of the big mistakes is people go to quadrant number 2, but then they fall back. And it's always this constant jumping from this to that, this to that, this to that. So my invite to you is go to the quadrant number 2. What are your quadrant 2 activities? List those down, focus on those, and don't jump into anything else, even when fear, self-doubt, and old beliefs come into play. This is not going to be video around fears, self-doubt, and old beliefs. We're going to get to it once we reach it. Bye-bye.